The series, as I call it, was executed between 1978 and 2002, and it took 4,500 hours to do these drawings, from the builder's plans, from photographs and books and miscellaneous materials. In March 1978, I made a research trip to the British Isles and went to the National Maritime Museum, Harland and Wolff, the Strathclyde Regional Archives, and Glasgow University, and had the plans sent back to America. And on May 14th, 1978, I began the first of the series of the Arama of 1911 of the Orient Line. It was the best steamer of the Orient Line built before the First World War.
Your apartment is filled with your illustrations. I'd like you to give us a quick tour, starting where you are now. If you point to that one down on your left, tell us what it is, and then quickly walk us through each of them.
This is the P&O steamer China, 1896. This is the Royal Mail steamer Avon of 1907. She operated to ports in South America from England. This is the Megantic of the White Star Line. She operated between Liverpool and Quebec. This is the Bergensfjord of 1913. That was my father's first steamer. He came over to America on her in 1918. And the one here is the St. Tudno, which was one of the best looking paddle steamers ever built. She was built in 1891. This is the Atlantis in 1916, an hospital ship. And below it is the Edinburgh Castle of the Union Castle Line, which operated from Southampton to South Africa, to Cape Town and Burden. And the next one is the Aotearoa of the Union Steamship Company in New Zealand. She was completed as an armed merchant cruiser, minus the second deck of the superstructure. And this is the only drawing in the world that shows her in color as she would have looked as a passenger liner.
Peter, we're going to continue our tour. So would you start in the corner and tell us what these are?
This is the Rotterdam of 1908, built for the Holland America Line, Rotterdam, New York service. This is the Maloja of the P&O Line, built in 1911 to operate from London to ports in Australia. This is the Empress of Russia of the Canadian Pacific, which operated between Vancouver and Yokohama and Shanghai. And she carried silk eastbound, and the silk was then shipped by fast train to Manchester, Connecticut, to the Cheney Silk Mill.
So Peter, we're going to continue our tour around your room. So now give us this next wall of your illustrations.
This is the Baltic of 1904, the White Star Liner, Liverpool, New York service. This is the Orontes of 1902 of the Orient Line, which operated between England and Australia. This is the Campania of 1893 of the Cunard Line, Liverpool to New York. This is the Atlantis, which was designed by me, which is my conception of the ultimate steamship of the high period. This is the Queen Mary of 1936. This is the old Coronia of the Cunard Line of 1905, which operated between Liverpool and New York and Boston. This is the Ceramic of the White Star Line. She was all third class, that she operated from Liverpool to Cape Town, South Africa, and then across the Indian Ocean to ports in Australia. This is the Virginian of the Allen Line. She was the sister ship of the Victorian, and the Virginian was the world's first turbine-driven liner. This is the Macora of the Union Steamship Company of New Zealand that was built in 1908 to run from Vancouver to Auckland, New Zealand.
Okay, and those two huge paintings behind you.
This is the Titanic cutaway that took me 546 hours. Above it is a cutaway of the Atlantis, which shows just about everything in the ship because she was so wide. The first class ballroom couldn't be shown, but at least we have most of the public rooms here. This is the first class dining saloon, which seats 1,000 people, and above it is the first class grand salon. I must say here that back in 1992, the Webb Institute of Naval Architecture, two of the best students spent a month checking out my plans of the Atlantis, and they found out that she was technically correct on every count, so she could have been built to my drawings if we turn the clock back. She's laid down in 1912, the same day that the Carpathia docks at New York with the survivors of the Titanic. So the Titanic is not the end of a dream in the world where the Atlantis really exists.
Peter, behind you on the wall are a couple framed, they look like newspaper articles. What are they about?
All right, this one over here appeared in the Hartford Current Living section in the spring of 1993, when 14 of my works were displayed at Ellis Island for 6 months, and 800,000 people attended the show. And then at the XL Center in the spring and summer of 2008, they had a Titanic show. And Tracy Shriver, the marketing director, invited me to show 33 of my 1/24 scale drafts.
Peter, you said 62 years ago today, you did what?
Mama, Eric, and I flew out of Idlewild Airport in New York on a Pan American DC-6 Clipper, and we flew over Bangor, Maine, and because there was a wild storm over Newfoundland, we had to land at an Air Force base in Labrador. And I remember the bright red jet planes, and the building had these cheap cardboard ceilings. And then we took off, and over the Atlantic Ocean, we had a really good steak dinner. We landed at Shannon Airport in Ireland, and we had breakfast at the Shannon Airport. Scrambled eggs and Canadian bacon, but there was no toast and marmalade. And then we flew over southern Ireland, and you could see the fields. And then this was on the 16th of June. And then we flew just to the south of Paris and landed at Orly Airport. And we stayed at the Hotel Acropoli that was built in 1907. And it had a glass elevator. And I remember there were lots of horses and wagons on the streets of Paris. The next day, we went to a steakhouse on the north side of Paris, and we had a good steak dinner. And the next day we went to the Café de la Paix, and we went to Notre Dame Cathedral, and the caretaker at Notre Dame let Eric, Mama, and I climb the spiral staircase all the way up to the belfry with these enormous oak wooden beams that dated back to the 1100s. It was built between 1163 and 1220 AD, and it was to have these wonderful spires, but the spires were never built. And I hope that someday maybe they'll build the spires on Notre Dame.
Very nice. Thank you.